the requirements. So he persuaded me to take a leave of absence right then and there without ever attending any, and make up these requirements in evening school and Extension University. Well, the last tape ended with my telling how I attempted to get into University of California. It was still the fall of 1933, and I was going to mention it wasn't only lack of prerequisites that kept me out. The other very important feature was I wasn't a citizen yet, and not being a citizen, I would have to pay $75 a semester non-residence fees. And of course I didn't have that much money. So it worked out for the best. I went back to San Francisco and looked for a job. Wrote to all my friends I had met in the various places in the United States for their statements that they knew me as a good, upright young man, ready to assume the privileges of citizenship. And the first time it came up was in October, and I didn't have all the depositions. So finally, on December the 4th, 1933, I got my citizenship papers. Of course, I went back to school and kept working. And I mentioned the Spanish girl I was living with in the house. Well, that was a pretty fair boarding house, but I was working pretty much, so the only thing of excitement in the fall of 33, that was the Depression period. I was down at the San Francisco beach, and at that time there were little groups of hobos all along the beach, having their little shelters made out of driftwood, and usually a little fire going to heat up their food. It was I thought a reasonably safe place, and quite a few people usually at the beach. One day I was there, and a group of 2 or 3 fellows called me. Well, I had no interest in seeing what they had to say, so I kept on going. And later on the way back, I went all the way to Muzzle Rock, and coming back, the same group of 3 men got up when they saw me coming, and of course I anticipated something. I always carried a good solid stick, more or less, to hit pebbles with and play around with. And I noticed one man walked down along the beach in back of me, and the other one came straight across towards me. And when I was there, he made some motion for me to stop, and I knew it was threatening, so without hesitating, I hit him with all force I had, square into the face, and quickly again, and then started running. Well, he was so surprised, he actually went down, so surprised, and the other fellows, of course, he was too far away, he couldn't possibly catch me. So I got away from that, and didn't really affect me very much, but it warned me that if a place isn't too safe, it's safer for me to stay away, because I wasn't very tall and very heavy, and these fellows all were much heavier and larger than I am, so I couldn't fight them off. I had to surprise them and run, which I did. Well, while I was working in the fall of 33, I met several interesting characters. There was one, Otto Bauer, a German, who had been over here since about 1904 and really knew everything about San Francisco. And he was a good sitar player. Since I played the sitar, then of course we got together and we became good friends, and we saw each other until he died many years later. He died in about 1967, and we kept close together ever from then on. After I was in college, I would see him occasionally. He would invite me whenever he had a chance. He got married late in life, and so we had a very nice friendship. Anyway, it was now going into 1934, and the second semester at UC started. I thought, enough requirements, prerequisites, and of course I had my citizenship papers by then. So I made a second attempt at registering at UC, and this time, having gone through it once before, there was no problem at all. I went in and signed up, was assigned a faculty advisor, talked things over with him. He was a little surprised, but knowing the condition I was in and inexperienced, he really gave me a lot of help, told me what to do, how to get along, and told me to see him frequently. He's glad to help me in any way he can. Well, I never saw him. I managed to get along by myself quite well. They had compulsory military service for students in the university at that time. So I thought, well, the worst that can happen is I get a uniform free, so I have a pair of pants to wear if anything should get bad. So I went down to the gymnasium in line with all the others to sign up. And came the time to sign up. I had to state my age, 24. They said, well, you don't have to sign up. You're too old. Well, that was the first time I was told I was too old. Well, that was all right. I didn't care for military anyway, so I got out of that all right. Then at that time now, I had moved into Wright's boarding house, paid, I believe it was $18 a month, room and board, 3 meals a day, and a bed in a room with one other young man. I thought that was a wonderful life. I enjoyed it. It was rather poor. I had no money to speak of, but I managed to get along. Then later on in the year, I knew that at that time Hitler had released a little bit of money in the savings accounts, which had more or less been closed since the inflation in 1923. In other words, it was 10 years later when they released the very little. So I persuaded my parents to take whatever money they have in my savings account and buy me a passage on a boat from New York to Germany and back, and I will manage to get to New York. Well, they were overjoyed, of course, and they made arrangements for that, and at the end of the semester, in the middle of May, I took a few necessities, put them in a briefcase, that's all I had, and started hitchhiking to New York. Oh, everything went reasonably well. Hitchhiking was slow. Hitchhiked up to Reno and out in Sparks, which at that time was completely separated from Reno. I was walking along when a sheriff came along, spotted me as a stranger right away, asked me what I was doing. I told him. So he said, well, the next freight train is going to leave in about 2 hours. You walk down about a mile and there's an opening in the fence. You go there onto the tracks. The train is waiting over there, and don't let me see you tonight. Well, I said, fine, thank you. Walked out there, through the hole in the fence, and found a freight train with some other men on a flatbed car. No, it was a boxcar. And went in. I had heard by that time that newspaper is the best cover on a case like that. Had enough newspaper with me. Sat down and waited, and finally the freight train pulled out. And, well, we kept going. Oh yes, something happened that the train went to Fallon instead of all the way east. So there I got off in Fallon, which was at the end of the railroad track. Little town, nothing to do. So the next morning, of course, I was hungry, so I walked through Fallon, and there was a bakery. Went in and was going to buy 2 rolls. The baker, obviously a German, spotted me as a German. So we talked a little bit. I told him that I am a baker. He said, well, do you want to work a little bit? So I went out into the bake shop and started cleaning some pans and worked a little bit in the bakery, and for about an hour or so I had earned enough food for the day. He offered me a job then and there, but I said no, I have to go to Germany right now. When I come back I might consider it. So then that evening I managed to get on the freight back to the main line, and then I was on a flat car all through Nevada, and it was sunny and windy. We were badly sunburned and it was dusty, so I really got exposed to a rough ride on a flat car. Oh, once in a while the train would stop and I would get on top of a boxcar. I even spent some time in a refrigerator car. Oh, I got to know a lot of these different freight cars, which ones were the best to ride. Eventually I got into Ogden. Really filthy dirty. But Ogden had some beautiful irrigation ditches right along the sidewalk, and so I took a chance there and washed my face. I always carried a towel in my briefcase, washed it a little bit, walked into town, found a place that advertised rooms, rented a room that had a bathtub, and cleaned up, went out and had a good dinner in a cafeteria, had very little money, and I noticed how pretty the girls were in Utah. That's the first thing I noticed in Ogden. So the next day then, after I had a breakfast, went down to the freight yard, got on another train, and this time we got as far as Evanston, Wyoming. And there the conductor kicked us off. I tried to get onto another train and got about 2-3 miles outside of Evanston when the train stopped, and by that time it was dark. But the conductor apparently had seen me get on the train because he knew exactly where I was. It came, and well, the trestle was, the railroad embankment was pretty high, so when he started chasing me I just ran down the embankment, and he of course wouldn't follow me there. Then eventually the train pulled out and I walked a little bit, found a railroad shack, got in. Another fellow was there who worked for the railroad. He said, sure, you can stay here. We talked a little bit and eventually I went to sleep. I was dead tired. Woke up early the next morning, and the only thing I could do is walk back. You see, the railroad shack was close to a tunnel, so I couldn't possibly walk through the tunnel, so I had to walk back to Evanston. I imagine about 4 or 5 miles, but it was a beautiful clear morning, and there were the red-winged blackbirds all over. It was a beautiful walk. Back to Evanston, went down where all the hobos hang out near the river, and spent there all day long. I bought a loaf of bread and got together with another hobo who told me he's going the same way, so we decided to go together. In the evening a freight car comes in, a freight train, and we find a beautiful refrigerator car. They were nice and neat because coming from California, they wouldn't have any ice in it. They would carry food, but they were well ventilated, and the ice compartment was a narrow compartment at either end of the car, and always kept very nice and clean. So there we had a clean spot. And from there we went all through Wyoming to the university town, not Rawlins. But anyway, I will think of it later. It was the university town. That same town I had been kicked off the first time when I came through, and I got stuck and saw my first rodeo. I don't know, I just can't think of the name right now. Anyway, there again we got off the train and we had to spend a whole day walking around this town. This time there was no rodeo there.